Hi, so my name's Scott. I make games, and this is just a quick stream or video to introduce you to myself and my new thing, the thing that I'm about to do. Um, so a little bit of background. I've been making games for uh, around 15 years, a little bit more than 15 years at this point, but I've never ever released anything. I've never pushed um, beyond that late prototype phase. The longest I ever worked on a game was about 2 years, and I would not have called that an alpha that I got up to. Um, but there was certainly a lot more substance to it than most of the projects that I've worked on. Um, so with that said, I want to release a game. Now I've actually done this before. I've done this twice in the last 3 or 4 years, where I've started up a stream and just sort of declared that okay, we're gonna make a game. But the scope of that always creeps too high, and it always becomes that monolithic do everything dream game that everyone's been trying to make um, for a million years. So this time's a little bit different. What I want to do is make a quick game project. I want to um, just take a concept that already exists, um, make a little game around it, and then release that. And I want to keep it short. I want to keep the scope down, and I want to release it all the way to a non-early access Steam release, and fingers crossed, but console release as well. Um, So what I'm thinking here is say 3 to 6 month time frame. Like we're keeping this small. That said, it may end up taking 12 months, but I really want to try and stick into that time frame, into that window. Um, so the type of game that I'm going to try and make, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Lost Vikings, but it's one of my all-time favorites. I do have. Let me switch over to my desktop view. I do have a That's not the one I want. That's the one. Um, I do have a demo here, and I mean, it's a gameplay demo for the Lost Vikings. It came out on the Super Nintendo, give or take around 1994. The short of it is you've got three characters here, um, and you can only play one of them at a time. Now, each of these three characters have a different ability. So this guy you just saw, he can glide a little bit. And he can put his shield down, and enemies can shoot at him and attack him, and not get through that shield. Um, I believe this might actually be the final boss fight. So, so each of them have different abilities. This guy can't jump, for example, and he can't attack. So I suppose he can use items that he's got in his inventory. Um, there's another character in there that can run and jump, and he can headbutt walls and knock them down, but that's his only form of attack, and he's susceptible to taking damage just at any point. He's the only one that can jump. Then there's a third character with a sword and bow and arrow, which this player has just switched to. And this character is the only one with a real attack, and can also do ranged attacks. So they can shoot an arrow through say a well that's an example, but you can do that through these electrical things, and that's just a way to um, activate switches with a range. I believe this is the last boss fight. Um, so I want to take this concept, the idea that there's just or maybe you've heard of Trine. Trine, I believe, is very similar. I haven't played Trine, um, but again, the idea being that you've got three characters, they all have different abilities, and you've got to strategically place them. One can open this type of gate, one can open that type of gate, one can jump. Just a bunch of different abilities. And what you'll do is just switch between them. We'll keep it simple. We'll have similar sized levels to this, give or take. um, probably significantly less levels, less gameplay. I want to aim for, say, 4 worlds, 4 levels, maybe 5 to 10 minutes to beat a level. So we're probably only talking about an hour or so of gameplay in the first place, maybe two. Um, just, really down scope. Again, the idea is to create this game and release it. It's it's not to make the longest game in the world. It's not to make the most full-featured game in the world. Now, as for the art style, I want to do something like these models. So these are very Minecraft style models that are made in Blockbench, which is a piece of modeling software that I believe was originally designed to export straight out to Minecraft. Um, so they're very very blocky, very simple, very low resolution textures, but you can really get a lot of detail in there. Um, And so in the past, I've made voxel models before. These look like they're probably a little bit easier to make than voxel models, but time will tell. Um, but I think I should feel right at home doing something like this. And so we'll use this sort of art style as a general style. Um, we'll do our 3 characters. They're not going to be Lost Vikings because why would I just make the Lost Vikings again? Um, that's about it. I mean, oh, the actual idea. Um, so instead of Lost Vikings, we're just going to do Pirates Adrift. So I literally punched into Google synonyms for Vikings and went through a bunch. They weren't really synonyms, but went through a bunch and went, oh yeah, no, pirates. That's pretty good. And then I looked up synonyms for Lost and landed on Adrift. I thought that could be a cohesive theme, pirates adrift. And then maybe we could tack a subtitle to it, Adrift in space and time, or through space and time, or something like that. Um, and then we can just have a bunch of totally different disconnected themes um, in the worlds, and only a couple of them. So like I said, imagining 4 worlds, 4 levels. The Lost Vikings has an ancient Egypt world. It has a caveman and dinosaurs world. It has a spaceship world, which we just saw. It has a Candyland world where everything's made out of candy canes and red and white themed stuff. Um, so that's the plan, at least. That's the idea. That's the goal. I'm going to make this on stream. I'm going to stream pretty much the entire process. Sometimes you just want to be in bed with a laptop, and so I won't stream those times. But really, that'll be maybe 5% of the development time. It won't be much. You won't miss anything um, of this development. And so I'm streaming this at the moment, and I've had one of my old regulars come back into the chat. So I'd like to welcome you back, Space Quara. Um, so what I'm going to do is record these videos. I'm going to just stream really low key the actual process of making this game and put it all up on YouTube, the entire process start to finish from this design, which we're about to start, all the way through to final release on at least Steam, but as many platforms as we can manage. 3 to 6 months, give or take. That's the goal. So with that said, I think we might jump into the design and actual stream portion of this. I think the video portion's done. Um, so well, that's exciting. Let's get started. Yeah, long time no see. I am back streaming game development. I haven't been streaming game development in it feels like a couple of years since before I changed jobs, and I've been at my job for 14 months. Um, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. I haven't done a lot of game development in this last year or so. I've been flat out with work. But I thought, it's time to just get back into. That has been about 2 years, yeah. It's time to get back into just doing what I like doing. Um, So that's what we're going to do. We're literally going to make a downscoped Lost Vikings alike. Today, I'm going to copy my project template. I'm going to do up a prototype logo because why not? I have way more polygons. I um I have leveled up. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Everything's better than it was a couple of years ago. It's a good time to be alive. Um, so if I right click on this and go duplicate, I'm using Notion here. Notion is um, it's literally a note taking app, but it's got a bunch of different features. Let's call this Pirates Adrift, and then straight away put a subtitle on it. Um, through space and time. Um, so I think last time I streamed, I had a I think it was 20 meg down and 1 meg up internet connection, and now we've got 250 and 100. So it's doesn't get much better than that. That's 100 times the speed at both ends, I think. Um, and that's been life changing. Just going to pop a brief description in here, similar to the Lost Vikings, but obviously different. Now in Notion, so this is more it's mostly just Markdown. You'll just punch in like you'll hit a star and type a note and so on. Just lets you keep things organized. You can reference pages from other pages as if it was a wiki. I suppose it is a kind of wiki in that sense. And you've got Trello style boards as well. So I've already set these up in the template. I've used them a few times in the past. Um, it's a nice little package. Although I really like the looks of codex.io, so I might use that for the board. Just link to it from here. I've got a gallery view here for the content, which will be things like there'll be a card here for every model, for example. I've got a wiki there. I've got a journal there. Milestones. So, for example, in here, I will just straight up put project started design phase. So this really is just going to be a quick stream. Tonight will probably be under an hour, and then we'll be back for a little bit more time tomorrow. We might not even make our actual project today in the engine. Well, I haven't even decided what engine yet. It's looking like it's probably going to be Unreal. Um, it's probably going to be Unreal, but we'll have to think about it afterwards. So when that's going to be, wrong side, today's date, 29th of November. Sure, include time, why not? Yeah, no worries. You have a good night. Hopefully I'll see you around. All right. So implementation notes is where I keep things like if I do up a complicated system, um, that's where I sort of make notes so that in 6 months when I'm coming back to it going, oh, how does this work? How do I how did I build this system where I turn items from an inventory into in-game in-world physics items and then back again and maintain all of their properties and stuff? Like how did I do that? That would go in the implementation notes. Pipelines is more or less the same thing, but outside of the game implementation. So my pipelines would be, for example, if I'm making a specific style of game, and I'm working in Blender, in 2 or 3 days, like if I don't make a model for 2 or 3 days, my memory is such that I will straight up forget how to export in that specific style or I'll miss a critical step, or and it'll be a different step each time that I miss. So the pipelines is where I write down effectively step by step instructions for myself. Um, so things like, okay, you're going to set the texture resolution to this, and you're going to export UVs by doing this, and stuff like that. Um, sort of like self tutorials or memory aids. And then the marketing and style guide. That'll come much later. But the style guide is like asset naming and stuff like that. Um, when I'm using Unreal, I generally just use the UE4.style guide. Um, so, like I said, I'm not doing a whole lot on stream tonight. In fact, I think we're probably well over half finished already. Oh no. But I did want to. I know you can't see this. I did want to do up a prototype logo for this. So let me just download and install Affinity Designer. I've just reinstalled Windows in the last day or two. Where is so if I log in, and somewhere here there is my downloads section. There we go, my account, downloads, download Affinity Designer. So yeah, I went through a few iterations before I landed on Pirates. Like I said, I was going through synonyms for Vikings, and I first thought savages, and then I looked up a few definitions of savages and thought, yeah, but I want this game to be lighthearted and funny. Um, and the definition of savage literally has something to the effect of extremely violent, or something like that. And it's I kind of want to keep the violence to a minimum. That is more than none, but not have it be a core tenet of the game. Um, okay, Affinity's downloaded. Another one was Barbarians. Barbarians I didn't mind. It's just when I saw Pirates, it had a better ring to it, and it worked well with that whole Adrift concept. This is exciting. I haven't been this excited about making a game in probably about 2 years when I did this last time. And I made a it was just a prototype, but I made a voxel farming game at the time on stream. Um, and then after a while, I think that was around the time I got really sick, and I just sort of fell off the face of the planet. I stopped tweeting altogether. I stopped making games. I stopped streaming. I stopped. Um, I just I just stopped doing anything that wasn't the bare necessities of life for a little while. Um, I even stopped playing games. I just like I really didn't do anything for a good while. Um, but now I'm back. Like it feels like I'm waking up from a long sleep. I did install Affinity. There it goes. I have a product key. Oh no, I haven't installed any of my fonts either. Type TTF and install. Now, I think that's going to take a hot minute because Dropbox has stored all of those up in the cloud. While we're going, make sure that my regular files are downloaded. I think this is the one we want to be working in. Good. I just don't want to open it up just yet until these fonts have installed because I might be using a couple of them inside that file. And there's nothing worse than when you open a file up and it's missing half the fonts and you don't even notice to begin with. You make some changes and then you see that, hey, that font's not right. Um, so we'll just wait for this for a moment. Now, on the topic of something like early access, I want to provide, say, monthly builds or whatever cadence seems appropriate. If I'm only going to work on this game for 3 to 6 months, maybe that won't be appropriate. Maybe we can have fortnightly builds or something like that. Um, but I don't want to do like an early access release on Steam or anything. I just would provide something like that in the description below the stream here or on the YouTube channel or something like that. Um, I want to give this game a full and proper release on Steam. This isn't even the file I wanted to open. This one. All right, let's drill down. Deeper. All right, these two. So we're going to call this Pirates Adrift. And let's play with these sizes a little bit. So I might center those. Maybe I'll uncenter them. Center's probably fine. And that's more or less it. That's going to be our prototype logo. This screen, breaker. Slice name. Let's change this to Pirates Cart. Export. System 32. Why would you default there? Game development. Design images. And that'll do. And then in Notion, game development, design images. Just drop that in here somewhere. That one. Brilliant. And that's literally all I had planned for the stream tonight at all. So that's a quick one. It's only 30 minutes. I just wanted to come in, dump out that headspace I've got. Um, and call it a night. And then tomorrow we'll get started and actually make a project and maybe do a little bit of this design work. We might actually just fill in a couple of little tiny bits, short development cycle, say 3 to 6 months, and I really want to stick to that, but we may end up ballooning out to say 12 months, whatever it takes. It's more important that this becomes a fully released product. That is the most important thing, but I do really want to focus on keeping that scope down. Um, Short development cycle, we'll say, okay, similar gameplay to the Lost Vikings, um, and then but with pirates, uh, funny sense of humor, which again, that's similar to the Lost Vikings. That was a very, very funny game. So 3 characters with different abilities, side scrolling, 3D blocky art style, short levels, aim for 10 to 15 minutes to complete, um, 4 themed worlds, 4 levels per world. Each level should have or should introduce a single concept and expand on it over the course of the level. Concepts from previous levels should also be used in later levels, obviously. Um, but that really is the crux of it, isn't it? 4 themed worlds. We could define them right now. I mean, it's going to be just sort of off the top of the head and call it done. Um, Maybe we'll call it theme ideas. Pirate Land, maybe something like a slash town made of connected floating things. Think Kevin. How do you spell Costner? Kevin Costner's Waterworld. It's because the pirates have to have a homeland. And instead of it being like a pirate ship out on the open seas, well, we want to be able to traverse it as a side scrolling platformer. Um, so let's also go something like an 80s suburban town. Um, let's let's go a factory. Now let's just call it a lava factory. The opposite of a lava factory is an ice palace. Jungle is probably a bit too complex. Much easier to make sort of square, blocky, factory, towny type stuff than it is to make jungle vines. But maybe we'll feel up to the challenge a little bit later. We've got to think of interesting places. So I like the first two. The second two are okay, and the last one's probably a no already. Three characters with different abilities. Only control one character at a time. Let's also say single player only. I've never done that before. Every one of my prototypes that I've started since the dawn of time, I've always said has to be multiplayer. But in the interest of time, we'll go single player only. And look, I don't expect this game to be successful. I'll be extremely happy if it makes $100 total. That's really all the goal is. But let's say this game becomes successful. Let's say I make I don't know, like just random numbers. Say if I can make $10,000 give or take, I'll um I'll try adding something like multiplayer, or maybe that'll warrant a sequel. I mean, we're not here trying to make bank. I just want to release a game to validate myself. Um, if that makes sense. So so that said, if I make $100, I'll be happy. But if I make enough money to warrant making a sequel or maybe an expansion or something for this, we might go and add multiplayer at that point. Um, but at this point, the expectation is that we'll make this game, we'll polish it off, we'll release it, and then maybe we'll do a limited scope farming game because that's what most of my prototypes are. Um, and we'll do the same process, polish it up and release it 3 to 6 months, something like that. Um, Probably something on the scope of like a Minecraft skyblock kind of thing. So maybe a few floating islands and some things to do on each island, pertaining to gathering resources and converting them into other resources. Um, Only control one character at a time. Each character has different abilities, significantly different, different abilities and different mobility. Like that really is it. Maybe, maybe there can be more. No, well, I'm scoping up again. So there's not going to be more than three characters. We're going to stick to three characters. Um, we should mention somewhere here that not here. Goal is to get each character to the end of the level alive. Characters have limited health and do take damage, even when not on screen or being controlled. In that sense, it's a bit of a spelunky like thing where even if something's off screen, the world is happening whether you're looking at it or not. Um, there might be an arrow trap or something that's firing on a cadence. Maybe it's firing every 2 or 3 seconds. And if you put a bloke in front of that and then switch to a different character, well, that guy's still going to get hit by the arrow trap. Um, so these are not going to be procedurally generated, although I do really like procedural generation. That would be something that I think would be really cool for a potential sequel. But again, that's not the expectation. That's not the goal. Um, I'm going to call it done there. That's about it for me. So if you're watching this later on YouTube, this has been a live stream on my Twitch channel. It's at Scott Makes Games, the same as it is on YouTube. If you're watching this live or on Twitch after the fact, you'll also be able to find this on YouTube. It'll be in a playlist with all of the other videos in this series. I'm going to archive all of my live streams on YouTube and keep them organized. the idea is to catalog the process of development of this game from start to finish the entire way, and I mean everything, except for just the occasional. Maybe I'm spending a half hour laying on the couch or something instead of streaming. Um, so my goal is to stream at least a few days a week, at least three. But let's really try and aim for 5 to 7. Although I don't think that's attainable. It'll be sporadic at first, and I will fall into a routine over time. Seems to be how things work with me. Um, and that's it. I'll see you guys next time. I'll see you tomorrow or the next day. Um, have a good night.